guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth. I am a 37-year-old attorney living in the DC area with my husband. And for today's video, I am going to be doing a first impression of the new Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation. So this just launched at Sephora. I was able to purchase it, I think, when it was available to Rouges a day early. And I think currently it is online only at Sephora. So this is going to be a just kind of demo of the application, my initial thoughts, that kind of thing. It is currently about 6 o'clock as I'm filming this, and we may or may not go out for a little bit tonight, so I'm not sure if I will update you at the end of the video with a wear test or if I'll just pin a comment. I'm kind of just seeing how it goes. But as you know, the earlier reviews of products tend to do better on YouTube, so I wanted to go ahead and get this up. One thing I'm considering doing is to do kind of a side-by-side of the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation with this, so just keep your eyes out for that if that sounds like something you might be interested in. So I'll just give you some quick information here about the product. It does retail for $58 for 1 ounce or 30 mils, which seems about where most Hourglass foundations are. So it's a little bit on the high end, but kind of consistent with the rest of the brand. It looks like it has currently 44 reviews, currently has 5 stars, but it looks like a lot of those reviews were kind of the result of product being sent for consideration. Okay, so I have the shade 1, which is the lightest shade. So this is fairest with cool undertones. It looks like this might be a good match, so I'm kind of hopeful about that. And I think I counted that they have 32 shades, if my math is correct. So not the best, but you know, I think Hourglass has been criticized for their shade range in the past, and it looks like they do have some decent deep options, but I will defer to other people on that as to whether they think it's a good shade range or not. So this is a vegan and cruelty-free liquid formula. It's supposed to give you medium coverage with a natural finish, and it is also supposed to be long wearing. So it says a weightless liquid foundation that delivers buildable medium coverage with a light diffusing effect for up to 16 hours. So coverage medium, finish natural, formulation liquid. And it says they have light diffusing pigments that are supposed to deliver a natural soft focus finish and help protect against blue light. You know, you can take that with a grain of salt. The blurring spheres are supposed to minimize the look of imperfections, fine lines, and wrinkles. And it also has white tea extract, vitamin E, and antioxidants. It's free of parabens and contains less than 1% of synthetic fragrance. I don't see fragrance on here, but that is, I think, one of the kind of Sephora classifications is less than 1%. It's also gluten-free. It says inspired by the iconic ambient lighting collection, which I have plenty of their ambient lighting powders, even going back to like their original packaging and everything. So I plan to incorporate as many of those as I can into this look. But it says inspired by the iconic ambient lighting collection, this foundation is infused with blurring spheres to minimize the look of imperfections for skin that looks smooth, even, and glowing. The transfer-resistant formula, which is really interesting, is also resistant to humidity and sweat for flawless-looking coverage that stays in place. And as I mentioned, we might be going out today. There's currently a heat advisory in the DC area, as there is, I think, in a lot of parts of the country. And on that note, I do have the air conditioning off, but I may turn it back on, just kind of depending how things go. But anyway, for suggested usage, it says to prep the skin with moisturizer and primer, then apply a pea-sized amount of foundation to the center of the face and blend outward using the Ambient Soft Glow Foundation brush, so separately. And I didn't purchase the brush because I think it was kind of pricey. I believe they only make like synthetic brushes, and it looked like a nice brush, but it was like $40-some, and I just didn't feel like picking it up. It looked to be similar kind of to the Rare Beauty foundation brush, which I also don't have, but that may be a cheaper option to consider. And it just says gently buff into skin and build until desired level of coverage is achieved. So it looks like the first few ingredients are like water, some silicones, isododecane, which is a ingredient that I think helps things kind of spread out on the skin. They put it in a lot of liquid lipsticks, I believe. Has glycerin, magnesium sulfate, which I always find interesting because that's Epsom salts, and I think it has a vitamin E derivative, xanthan gum, but it does not have alcohol or denatured alcohol, which is one thing I was looking for. I did note that the most recent Lancome foundation has alcohol, as does the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. So as someone with dry, kind of sensitive skin, I always look out for alcohol as an ingredient. It's something I'd like to avoid if I can. So I'm just applying some sunscreen because I haven't yet. So I think I'm going to use this kind of as my primer. I'm not sure if I used quite enough or not. I did my skincare not too long ago, so I'm already kind of pretty moisturized here. So as I alluded to earlier, I am going to try to incorporate as many Hourglass products as I can. They don't make everything that I look for, and other than the foundation, I didn't really want to purchase anything new, so I just kind of stuck with what I had. All right, so let's take a look at the package while that sunscreen is kind of setting up. It says this was made in Korea, which is interesting. Has a 12-month shelf life, and that's really all there is to it, I believe. And it just has the shade on the top there. So the actual packaging is not very substantial. It's kind of this thin cardboard, has some kind of insert there. I'm sure it has lots of fascinating information. The packaging is quite nice though. It has a nice frosted glass bottle, has a cap with their kind of, I don't know, would you call this bronze metallic plastic, and has Hourglass in gold, has the shade on the bottom. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the packaging of the actual product. I'm just surprised that this didn't have any kind of inner carton to keep things a little bit more secure. All right, so we'll do the old foundation down the hand trick. So let's see, just try to, okay. So that's about one pump, and you can see it kind of going down the hand there. Okay, so I'll just swatch it next to some shades of the luminous silk that I have. And the reason I'm choosing these in particular, I kind of played around with what was most popular at Sephora, what's newest, that kind of thing. So this is the shade 1.5. So a little bit darker and warmer, I would say. And then this is the shade 3.75, which I think is a little bit closer, still not as light. And then this is the shade Oslo from NARS. And obviously this is a new release from NARS. And then finally we have the shade Mont Blanc from NARS. So let me just kind of spread these out. So yeah, so I think that Hourglass is going to be the lightest. And now that I've kind of spread it out a little bit, I think that NARS Oslo, which I have worn quite a few times, is going to be a little bit pinker. So I'm just going to quickly pull up the shades again. So 1 is the lightest shade, and it's fairest with cool undertones. 2 is very fair with warm undertones. The annoying thing about the Sephora website anyway is that all the shades are kind of, it looks like jumbled together. So you kind of have to hunt around a little bit to figure out what shades they have. They do kind of have half shades. So yeah, so 1.5 is very fair with cool undertones. 1 is fairest with cool undertones. And I think just for my sanity, I always use their like foundation finder where you put in an existing shade that you have that you like to see if they have a good one. So I did the Makeup Forever Reboot and they recommended 1.5. So hopefully I chose well enough anyway. Of course it is like end of July as I'm filming this. So that's the Reboot next to the Hourglass is that one. So looking at it on my hand, the Hourglass looks decent enough, but I'm sure you're all just dying for me to actually apply it to my face. So we'll go ahead and do that after I put on my under eye corrector. So I don't think Hourglass makes one. I'm just gonna use the Charlotte Tilbury. I do have the Hourglass concealer in Birch, which I think is one of their lightest shades, so I think that might have kind of factored into my decision, is that I didn't want too much of a contrast between the Hourglass foundation and the concealer that I had. Okay, so I'll remember to only do half of my face, I think. So that is one full pump, and we'll just start dotting it. So it does seem pretty lightweight. And I'm gonna use my Real Techniques Expert Face Brush. So it's not bad. I think maybe it's a shade, not even a shade, but just a hair light. But, you know, I think generally speaking, I would prefer to be a little bit on the light end and, you know, bronze, contour, that kind of thing. So, okay, so there's the... I might need more here for the sponge side. It has a nice texture to it. And I don't know if you can see, like when I'm swiping it on, it is pretty light. Like it shears out, it seems. And this is a dampened beauty blender. So you're definitely still seeing kind of freckles come through. I have some blemishes down here. I think you might get slightly more coverage with a brush, which is kind of what you would expect. So let's go ahead and build this up. I am feeling quite dewy as well. The transfer resistant claim is very interesting to me. If we do go out, I'll probably put sunglasses on. Yeah, I think, you know, you can see the difference there. And unfortunately, when you are purchasing online, it can be a little hard to shade match. I think it looks good minus the shade issue. Just pat over. Nose is always a problem. So if you want something that looks really natural and lets your skin come through, I mean, you can see there's definitely some coverage there. So I'm gonna use their brow pencil on the shade Warm Blonde. Not usually a brow pencil kind of gal. I just prefer kind of a one and done brow gel. I usually don't do a lot to kind of fill them in. But since this is the brow product from Hourglass that I have, this is what I will use. All right, and for the concealer, like I mentioned, I have their concealer in the shade Birch, which I think is the lightest shade. I just have their mini because why not, right? That is one thing I like about Hourglass and some other kind of higher end brands is that often they will, not quite centered here, often they will come out with minis so you can try a product before you really commit to it, or if you just, like me, want to try a million different things, you can do so without kind of really breaking the bank. All right, so this is another kind of lighter, slightly yellow, for me anyway, concealer. That's supposed to be fair with neutral undertones. They also do have cream, which is fair with pink undertones, which looks very pink on the model anyway. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a nice close look at the foundation. Zoom out just a touch here. So I think to set, I'm actually going to use their Veil Loose Setting Powder. Before this came out, I used a lot of their like ambient powders to set, I think. I think I might have used that one as a bronzer kind of product. That was Dim Light. Yeah, what is it? Diffused Light is kind of their like yellowy type powder. I did see, by the way, that these palettes that they come out with around the holidays, the one from this past holiday season is currently on sale at Ulta. And I do like how they design this cap as well, because you can kind of limit how much you're getting. And it controls how much gets in the cap. So yeah, so I don't know, I kind of like collected their holiday palettes for a while until I just felt like I was getting so many repeats of products I already had, and they're great palettes in theory for travel. Do I want to do some contour before I set everything? Yeah, they're great in theory, but I've just found that some of these pan sizes, especially for blush and bronzer, and with them being so close together, I just found that I didn't really want to reach for them kind of on a regular basis. So I certainly wasn't going through a full one every year, so it didn't really make sense to keep buying them. Although I always get sucked in by the packaging, and I think, give myself a bit of a brown nose there. See how it does with the KVD contour. Yeah, I always get sucked in by the packaging. So I think, like, not this past year, but the year before, I bought like both of the variations when they went on sale. And like I said, I saw that it was at Ulta, but I've been kind of holding back for the reasons I mentioned. I think their 3-pan palettes are a decent size, and because it's just one row of powders, there's a little less of a risk of you getting your brush into products that you don't want to get your brush into. So I think that blended okay. It does feel like it's starting to kind of set down. It still feels a little tacky, but I'm wondering if I can use something under the eyes. This might be a bad idea. I'm gonna use that pink powder in this palette. This is the Ambient lighting powder in Iridescent Light. And I'll just use this little Say brush. I know like pink concealer is kind of a thing, which I haven't really gotten into. I think that might have helped actually. Not sure if it's doing the texture of my under eyes any favors, but anyway. Okay, so let's just kind of set the rest of the face here. So I'm gonna be a little aggressive maybe. So I wanna make sure that where my sunglasses are going to be touching my face, that it is set. And I'm also going to apply some blush and bronzer. I almost picked up the Hourglass like spray. I think it was on sale in maybe the summer FabFitFun box, like add-on store or something. And I kind of hemmed and hawed and then decided I didn't need it. So, oh well. Okay, so for bronzer, like I said, these smaller pans are a little bit difficult to get your brush into, especially when you have like a larger bronzer brush like this one. This is the Rougher 22 brush. I'm gonna kind of give it a try though. This is my favorite bronzer brush, and I suppose if I got a little bit of that yellow powder, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I know a lot of people really enjoy this shade, and it's doing okay with this brush. I don't think, you know, I got this brush maybe after I had this palette for a while, and a long time ago. It wasn't until, I guess, relatively recently in my makeup journey, if you will, that I kind of got into bronzer. It's coming off a little bit orange and a little bit metallic on my forehead. All right, so I'm just gonna take my Beauty Blender again and just go over a little bit. Yeah, not my favorite bronzer or application, but I think I was able to make it work. Okay, so speaking of this other kind of form factor of palettes, one of my favorite palettes that they've ever released is this trio of blushes. I think this was one of their like first holiday releases. It does have their newer logo on it, but I don't know if you can tell just by kind of the height of the pans how much I've used. So using my Refer number 5, and this is my favorite shade, Luminous Flush. So this brush is a little bit dense, I think, for this kind of product. All of these ambient powders, I think, are baked. But I don't know, I've just always really enjoyed this blush on my skin tone. And it has shown up in some of those other palettes. And this trio also has Mood Exposure, which I think is one of their top sellers. It's that mauve-y shade there. So yeah, so I don't know why they haven't kind of either brought this back or made it permanent, because I do like a good kind of blush palette. The window is, the blinds are mostly shut, but you know, there is some extra light coming in from that direction, so it does make it a little bit of a challenge to be even. So I'll just quickly do some highlighter. So they also have this highlighter palette. I think this is something that is like permanent. I think you can still get this. I guess I'll use the Absolute Strobe Light mixed with the Pure Strobe Light, maybe. See how that does. And I'm just using my Anastasia A23 brush. So it is a very pretty kind of highlighter formula. I know they also have their cream highlighters, and they have cream blushes as well, for that matter, but I think those might give you a slightly more subtle effect, but since we're kind of focusing on the ambient foundation, I wanted to showcase those products. Okay, and then quickly, I'm just going to throw their Scattered Light in the shade Reflect. This is like a pressed glitter type eyeshadow. Just priming the lids. And then just to kind of keep it simple, I'm going to use my Viseart Neutral Matte Palette, and I'll set the base with that like white shade. And then again, keeping it pretty simple, I'm going to go into that shade, I think, this MAC 224, and just kind of put a little dimension in the crease. And then I like to take a flat definer brush from Sonia G and just do the same under the lash line, just to give it a little bit of definition and make sure that concealer doesn't crease. Okay, so this eyeshadow, like I mentioned, it's one of these with like a stopper on it. And I've been growing my nails out a little bit, and I am appreciating so much more the struggles that go with that. I think try to do it with my fingers still. All right, so that's a pretty subtle application. I'm wondering if I use this brush, Shikuhodo. I think that did better. I like a foily lid. What can I say? Probably not my preference in terms of which brush I would use, but I think I need to clean my brushes, so I'm a little limited in that way. Okay, so Hourglass does have eyeliners that I don't have any of, and the mascara. So I have their what is this? Unlocked mascara. I have like a mini size, I guess. So I'm just gonna forego eyeliner, and I am going to use my Clinique bottom lash on the lower lashes. And then I always curl my lashes. I know this mascara had a moment. I'm not sure who recommended it that kind of tipped me over the edge. I want to say it was Jessica Braun, but I'm not 100% sure. So give them a nice curl. And then, yeah, this has one of those kind of synthetic rubbery bristles. It's not my favorite, but so they're pretty. Usually what I like in a mascara is a waterproof formula, because it just helps to really keep my lashes lifted. Naturally, my lashes are very straight and they kind of point down, so, but anyway, it kind of gives a pretty fluttery effect. All right, and then quickly, the last product, I have another sample of one of their lip stylos. This is in the shade Peacemaker. So I was kind of at the mercy of whatever the sample happened to be. It's probably not a color I necessarily would have chosen for myself, but it's kind of your basic lip crayon. Yeah, not probably my favorite, but I think it goes well enough with the eye look. So that is the finished makeup now that I have everything applied. Okay, so I'll give you my initial thoughts. Actually, before I do that, I'm just gonna use some Fix Plus for reasons I will okay, I think that helps. So, although, did I just smear my mascara? What is going on here, guys? Not sure if that was the top lashes or the bottom lashes, but... Alright, I think that's good enough. We're not here to talk about the mascara or the concealer or anything. So, now that I've sprayed my face with Fix Plus somewhat successfully, it doesn't look amazing or feel amazing, which is a little disappointing for something this expensive. I think, you know, the shade is probably part of it. So if you are generally more fair than I am, this might be perfect for you. I kind of showed you those comparison swatches, so hopefully you can kind of situate yourself in comparison to that. So I'm fairly sure it doesn't have alcohol in it, but it still has that kind of almost tight feeling. Like I can kind of feel there's something on my skin, and it doesn't feel heavy necessarily. It just kind of feels like it's a little irritating. And I don't know why that is, because I didn't see anything in the ingredient deck that would kind of jump out to me as being irritating. And it's especially disappointing that it feels that way kind of at this, like after initial application. Like sometimes towards the end of the day, you kind of, you know, start to feel like you really want to take your makeup off. But yeah, to kind of have that feeling at the outset is a little frightening. Let me give you another close look. So like you saw, like you still can see like freckles. Like it did definitely take down some of those blemishes, so I didn't do any extra concealing because I felt like they were covered well enough. So that is the initial application, and like I said, I can try to update you later tonight, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, for someone who has dry, somewhat sensitive skin, it's just kind of the feeling of it that I'm not loving right now, in addition to the shade. So right now I think my favorite thing about this foundation is actually the packaging. I think it looks really beautiful, but that's not really a good enough reason to purchase a foundation. So like I said, it is now almost 7, it's 6:52. So maybe I'll try to check back in 3 or 4 hours after I've been out, just to kind of let you know how things are going. But yeah, so far I would say proceed with caution on this one, which is disappointing. Okay, so I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, guys, so it is 12:23, so I almost made it to the 6-hour mark, which was more than I thought I would. A few things to kind of update you on. So as you can see, it's looking a tad shiny on camera. I don't think it looks maybe quite as shiny in person, but that is something to note. So I did happen to see while I was out and about and editing that Babs Beauty did upload a video reviewing this product, and she seemed to really like it. She has more oily combination skin, so I found that to be really interesting. And she was also talking about some of her struggles in finding a shade. So on that topic, I'm not going to rehash too much the kind of shade issue that I was having while I was, you know, waiting for the check-in. I did edit the earlier portion of the video, and I think just looking at the footage, I think before I kind of built up the coverage a little bit more, I was happier with the shade match. So I wanted to kind of see what I could do in terms of building up the coverage for the purposes of this video, but in the future, I would probably kind of stick with maybe some lower coverage, or maybe just kind of more targeted concealing, that kind of thing. Yeah, when I first applied this, I was thinking maybe I would not keep this foundation, that I would return it. If I were to repurchase it now, I might try the 1.5 shade, although, like I said, we're in the height of summer now, so I don't really tan all that much, but to the extent I do kind of darken up in the summer at all, I'm probably at my darkest, so maybe this would be a better shade match in the winter. So yeah, so kind of taking into account Bab's video and just my feeling about the foundation, it has kind of, I think, settled in a little bit and felt a little bit more comfortable. Right now it is looking a little bit shiny, and as I did mention, we did end up going out. So let's give you another close-up look at the wear here. So I think you can see, especially I think on this side, you know, where the nose pad of my sunglasses were. And I think you can also see kind of on the sunglasses where it, you know, wore off a little bit. These sunglasses do tend to kind of rest on my cheeks. And I think I kind of did a little bit of that, you know, when I went inside and took them off just to kind of make sure there wasn't anything obvious, but I think they held up pretty well. So, you know, and taking into account kind of how my face is looking right now, I did actually just take a flash photo, tried my best anyway, so I'll insert it. But I don't think there's any flashback. You know, you can take the shade into account, but I don't think there's any actual flashback. So I'm starting to think that this foundation I would maybe recommend for maybe someone with dry skin who wants a kind of long wearing transfer resistant foundation, maybe for events, that kind of thing. If you want a fuller coverage and you want something that's more transfer resistant in the summer, when you are dealing with a lot of heat and humidity, maybe this would be a good thing to look at. We did go on, I don't know, it was probably less than a mile round trip walk outside in roughly 90-degree temperature. So, you know, I think there is definitely some shine coming through, and it's not atypical for especially my forehead to look a little shiny, you know, by the end of the night. So I don't think this is a foundation I would reach for like on an everyday basis. I think this would probably be something I might use for those times when I did want something that was going to be maybe a little bit more long wearing, a little bit more kind of hardy. I think just the fact that someone who does have more oily combination skin was able to wear it for, I think, at least 8 hours without getting significant shine and oil kind of speaks to the finish you might get as someone with dry skin. So yeah, I think my bottom line is going to be, this isn't my new kind of holy grail foundation. This isn't going to be an everyday foundation that I reach for, but I think this might be a very good kind of situation specific foundation, and I kind of want to try 1.5. I don't know if they'll ever stock in stores. I don't know. I'll kind of keep that on the back burner in terms of whether I want to try a different shade or not. Like I said, it is kind of a pricey foundation, and since I'm not 100% in love with it, I'm not sure if I want to kind of go down that path. I actually thought about maybe trying to mix it with the Kosas foundation that I reviewed earlier in the year, because if you watched that video, this was a little bit too kind of orangey pink, orangey on me, a little bit too deep. So I'm wondering if combined, I might enjoy the finish and the shade. So I might give that a shot. I'm not usually one to mix foundations too much, but I really did like the finish of this, but it wasn't the most long lasting. So I'm not sure if these will play well together, but that's kind of a thought I had. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys in deciding whether or not to check out this foundation. Again, right now I think it's online only, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of sample it or swatch it in store, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, my sort of long-winded reviews of pretty much everything, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.